I'm going to start our conversation with AI, but I want to tackle it from two different perspectives, because you come at investing from two different ways, two different styles. So you're a quantitative investor. Data science is always critical to how you make your investment decisions. You hired your first PhD, Leda, in AI back in 2008.
That's right.
To help build out your strategies. You now, I read, said you needed a team of, quote, feature engineers. What is that?
Right. So if you think about the availability of data and the ability of AI and machine learning to turn any bit of information into useful data, whether it's imagery, whether it's text, sound, unformatted text. So back in the day, a new data set would be a new time series of prices, time series of volumes traded, but it was a time series. Nowadays, a data set is anything. A collection of words, a collection of sounds, a collection of images, consumer data. So while a time series, everybody knows how to look at a time series. They plot a chart and the horizontal axis is time. These more amorphous data sets, they have to be explored. What are the features? What are the variables that I'm looking at in this data set? And so there is a discipline now that we call feature engineering. Look at this data set. What are the horizontal axes that you're going to inspect the data on? What are the relevant parameters to characterize the data set? And so we do have a research area within our company that is traditionally research for us is alpha making. So in the last few years, we actually formed a research team that was all about data. They're not alpha makers. They're just people that treat and interpret and select the data.
But less than 5 years ago, this group was alpha makers.
Correct.
And that just shows you how quickly this is changing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I read where you said, quote, nowadays the data is so much greater in volume and so specific that it no longer makes sense for it to be in their domain. Speaking of what was in the domain of your investment staff has now morphed to these feature engineers.
Yes, that's right. So there is a research activity that is research. It is creative, it is innovative, it requires mathematical skills, but it preempts the alpha making. It's about understanding the data and exposing. Like they talk about what elements have you exposed of this data set? So you see, you would never ask that question with a time series, right? A time series of prices, a series of prices versus time. There's time and there are prices, and off you go. But as I say, the new world, the data is such a broad concept now that data sets need a bit of work before they can be used for alpha making.
So Afsaneh, if I called you a more traditional investor, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Oh, but these guys also use their data really well.
Sure.
Yeah.
How do you see the AI story playing out from your lens?
So at RockCreek, we do two things. One is we invest in early stage companies, particularly in energy innovation, and then we invest as like the outsourced chief investment officer across lots of funds. So we have two sets of data sets. We were early investors in Y Combinator when Sam Altman was there and started OpenAI, so we were fortunate in that way. But since we started RockCreek, we have had about a third of the team when we started RockCreek was computer scientists and quant people. And what Leda said is super important because we've used this data in a huge way, and today, the way we can, with AI, basically be so much more efficient with ingesting the data, making it more structured, making it so that we can make better decisions on our investments. That has changed dramatically in the last 12 months, even more in the last 6 months.
Wow.
So one third of your staff,
absolutely,
computer scientists.
Today is changed because maybe about a quarter is, and we just actually launched a group called Serious Innovation Lab, literally on November 1, that has information on several thousand funds and is looking at what signals you can pick from that, but also you can do your first due diligence. All your documents, everything is in one filing cabinet.
Yeah.
So it makes our work very different than it was 2 years ago.
Are you-
Even in
I'm
the
telling you,
traditional realm.
Scott, everybody's a quant now.
I think
Everybody's
that's
a quant.
so true. That is so true.
Because the world, I remember the first time I heard the phrase data-driven decision making. And I thought to myself, is there any other kind? And then I thought, wake up, Leda. Of course, there's only the other kind. People make decisions with emotions, not with data.
Is it fair to say that AI in some ways has democratized being a quantitative investor?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because we have access to data in ways and we can have it processed in ways that we never had before, and we can use it to our advantage as we're trying to generate alpha.
Exactly, and AI will help you, even if you're not necessarily that familiar with an analysis. You've got to be a little bit careful, right? So like I treat the AI tools a bit like keen interns, you know? Like they're a bit keen, so you've got to tell them exactly what bit of analysis you want them to do for you and check their numbers a bit. But in general, people with much less mathematical training can use the tools to analyze data and to interpret data more
Do you
efficiently.
ladies think we'll get to a point, and maybe in the near future, where you'll use learning algorithms to actually pick investments? Will we get to that point? Afsaneh, how do you see that?
I think today, the way we see it is you will be humans using the algorithms to make better decisions versus the algorithm, making a decision. Things could change over time, but at this point, what we can do, particularly in less quantitative areas, you do need the human. And without that, you can't really do your work. Where you don't need us, and the AI can do a much better job, is what we talked about: getting the data, cleaning the data, making it in a format. We used to have 20, 30 people just to do that. You don't need that skill. You need very different skills, but that decision making and judgment, I don't think that's going away.
Leda, do you agree?
Look, mathematically, the big problem is that financial data is actually quite sparse, right? And quite sparse, and there's a lot of randomness in it. And those two things make it very hard. It's not your traditional deterministic problem. Like if you think about the self-driven car, what is random when you get into a car and you ask a car to take you from here to JFK? What is random? You know the roads, you've mapped them, and even if you haven't mapped them, if they've changed a little bit, the car has cameras, and so that's mostly a deterministic problem. The financial data contains a lot of randomness, and that makes the decision making a bit difficult to automate.